All right, we're here with Stanford safety Justin Reed. And before we get into the off-the-field stuff, just how did practice go today?
Practice was solid. We locked in on the details a lot more. It was a lot better than yesterday. I felt like guys were just had better concentration. Guys were on the P's and Q's about the coverages, the checks, the things we're trying to accomplish to game plan this team. So it was a good practice overall. Feel really good about it.
And just a quick look ahead to Arizona State. What's the toughest thing that they do that you guys kind of have to be ready for?
They do a lot of fast sweep, a lot of fast motion. You know, they put guys in interesting formations. Sometimes they pull guards in different directions to try and confuse our linebackers. So they do some interesting things to try and get us confused. But that's why it's going to be a big eye control game for us. Just guys making sure you're reading your keys, making sure you stay with your man. One of the most interesting plays that they do is that triple options where the quarterback will read it and then he'll run out to the side and then he still has a pass off of it. So for the DBs, we're just going to have to stay on our guys, make sure you don't get sucked into it because he'll throw the ball over our heads.
Now, your brother Eric had a pretty big day today. He had a press conference where he talked about a lot of the issues that came to the surface or at least got amplified this past weekend. Did you have a chance to see any of what he said?
No, I missed it. I was hoping to talk to him later today just to check in on him. I know he's coming off of his PCL injury and he's starting to feel better from that. But as far as some of the things he's been doing outside of football, like his New York Times article, all that's been really awesome. So I just kind of wanted to pick his brain a little bit about how he's feeling about it.
Has he always been someone that kind of raises those issues with you?
I feel like the way we were raised in general by our parents. Like our parents always taught us to stand and do the right thing and stand up for what we believe in and don't be silent about it. Like if we feel that something's wrong, we should speak up about it and not just sit on our hands and like just accept it.
There's been a lot of confusion, it seems like, from different parties about just what he and the other players are trying to achieve. If you had to articulate it, what are the hopes behind the protest that's happening during the national anthem at the games?
We're just trying to raise, they're just trying to raise awareness. They're just trying to start the conversation, make it a publicly known product. And the unfortunate thing about it is some people are trying to twist it to make it seem that it's disrespecting the flag. Not one player has said anything about disrespecting the flag. I remember seeing someone on ESPN where a guy mentioned if the players were kneeling about the military coming back to the United States and not having jobs and being treated unfairly and things, people wouldn't have as much of a problem with it as if it's just a racial topic. And that's kind of that's uncomfortable for some people to speak about. So they kind of want to just be like, no, sit down, shut up, don't talk about it, just play your sport. And they're just misconstruing the message. What those guys are just trying to do is just kind of make it more aware. It's activism, it's kind of a civil rights type of movement. Just have people start the conversation about it and raise awareness so that way change can start happening.
And Coach Shaw has talked about the fact that you guys all come from different backgrounds, especially on this particular team. You know, players come from everywhere, and you guys have been able to successfully have a lot of conversations about some uncomfortable issues. Can you just talk to the extent that you guys have talked about just in general how that's worked on the team, and then as far as the protests go, has that come up?
Well, Coach Shaw has always told us that we're more than just football players. Not any one of us on this team, we came to Stanford to solely be a football player. We're much more than that. And we have these uncomfortable conversations. At the beginning of each season, Coach Shaw brings us in for a team meeting, and we start talking about things that have gone around in NFL and college with just drugs, things like that. We have Brenda Tracy come talk to us about sexual assault and sexual violence and kind of her story that happened to her. So we're very comfortable having these conversations because we feel like we have the intellectual capacity and we're just able to speak about it. And what Shaw tells us to do is, he says, if you're going to speak about any of this stuff, make sure you're educated, make sure you know what you're talking about. Don't just speak out of your tail and just say whatever you want to say, because then you're not getting the message across. You're just going to be looked at in a negative fashion. But if you educate yourselves and we talk about it for that reason, so that way we know what we're talking about, then if you feel so strongly to say something, then he encourages us to say something.
What's the biggest advice you would give or message you might have about people outside of Stanford who just for whatever reason just can't have these conversations without it becoming something that's not productive and there's just a lot of animosity?
I just encourage them to open their mind, open their perspective, try and put themselves in another person's shoes and actually open themselves up to that thought, not be so closed-minded about it and just be like be able to have a mature, educated conversation. Look at you try and get your points across, but you also listen to what the other person is saying about their perspective and their points, so that way you could just have a conversation we can both grow from.
And then just one last thing, you mentioned Brenda Tracy and her visit. Can you just talk about any changes you've seen in the culture or attitude here since her visit?
Since her visit, I mean, Stanford is an interesting place. There's all types of movements going on all the time. So this university has definitely had a movement for the past few years just about sexual assault and things like that. Ever since the one issue happened with the swimmer kid, that's when it all kind of kicked off. And Brenda Tracy has just been able to add to that and add to the culture of us combating against those type of issues.
All right, that's Stanford safety, Justin Reed.